Hi, I'm Virginia from Right Clinic, and here with me today is Gavin Williams. Gavin Williams is a writer in the health and wellness niche with his business In the Moment Copywriting. He's also a practicing neurological physiotherapist in the NHS and private sector with 19 years of clinical experience. Very impressive. Thank you so much for your time today, Gavin.
Oh, thank you, Virginia. It's a real pleasure joining you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So let's jump right into it. So, what do you do and how did you get into it?
From the physiotherapy side of things, obviously, as you've said, I've been in the NHS for quite some time. I started working as an assistant physiotherapist on the stroke unit, and then qualified, and did my usual working through all of the usual rotations of specialisms. And then 10 years ago, I specialized in neurology, which has always sort of been more of a passion. It was always sort of my calling from a physiotherapy point of view. Obviously, more recently, we're talking about the writing side of things. And I would say that my writing has always taken place in one form or another. Just, keeping a journal for decades has just, always kept that muscle strong of putting pen to paper and, just putting thoughts from my brain on the page. And then I dabbled with writing a fiction novel at one point and got quite a long way into it and couldn't work out the ending. But that was, just another way of expressing, and just it's just something that I'd enjoyed doing. A long time ago, I used to be in a band, and I handled all of the lyrics and promotion and press releases and all of that sort of stuff. And so writing has always been something that I've just gone to as a way of expressing myself, and I've always seen the worth in it. Through my studies, I've done actually physiotherapy was my second degree, so I did a degree in sociology and anthropology first. Very different, very interesting, and in my case, not hugely helpful in terms of getting a job at the end of it. So I went back to university to retrain. So I had the dissertation, all the coursework stuff, and that was there. And then more recently, it probably started about 3 years ago. I was talking to a friend of mine who was a copywriter. At the time, I'd set up a podcast, and during the pandemic, to do with mental health and philosophy. And I was talking to another person who followed, had a similar interest, and he mentioned that he was a copywriter. And at that point in time, I didn't know what a copywriter was. I probably said something similar to what everyone says when they hear what a copywriter is. Oh, you trademark things, you copyright things, and and he said, no, it's not that. It's not that at all. And that set me on a journey over the last few years of, learning an awful lot of information, and being a different sort of person in many ways. Actually, it's brought out a lot more of an entrepreneurial spirit within me that I never really knew that I had. And so, and obviously the last few months, probably in earnest, the last 9 to 12 months has been when I've really focused on building my business.
So once you learned about copywriting, how did you get into it? Did you build a portfolio, or did you just start immediately reaching out to clients, or did your friend introduce you to someone?
I actually felt like I wanted to focus on the fundamentals first. I wanted to make sure, I think having the background in healthcare where you can't fake it, you have to actually know what you're talking about. You have to have the knowledge before you can provide that service to others. And I wanted to apply that same feeling to providing my copywriting services. So I did a lot of studying from a lot of sources, tried to overcome the concept of imposter syndrome, the feeling that my knowledge probably wasn't going to be as good as someone else's, and that there's always someone else that they could be giving their money to rather than me, who would give them a better service, and there's always someone that knows more. And I think everyone's got their own way of combating that, but I think in my case it was to be sure I've got my fundamentals, to know that I've done my studying, and to know that my portfolio represents that and is strong enough that when I do meet clients, I've got the confidence to say to them, I actually know quite confidently I can do the job for you. But I wanted to reach that point through putting the hard work in before it. And I think that's just where I invested my time. Obviously, I was doing this alongside working as a physiotherapist as well. So my 24 hours were limited just as much as anyone else's. So I had to be really strategic with where I put my time, and almost to create my own curriculum, and find the resources that I knew were trustworthy and effective. And my network has been really important for that too as well. I've had some really helpful advice and support from a wide range of people through the time I've been doing this.
Awesome. So how did you find your first client?
Well, I think probably like many people, it was just getting that stroke of luck, that word of mouth. A friend of mine is a website designer, and it was just the stars had aligned. She'd worked with a client that was in the wellness space. I had literally sent her my portfolio the day before just to say, cast your eye over it. From your point of view, as a copywriter, there's an awful lot of collaborative working. Web designers, graphic designers, very much a huge part of that process. What would you make of it from your perspective? She came back with obviously very, very kind feedback and said, I'm really glad you asked. I've just finished designing a website for a person. They asked me what they think is next, and I said, you need copy for it. So they just connected me with that person, and we had a discovery call about 3 days later, and then signed the contract. And it was perfect. Worked really well.
I love that. I think it's really important that you've given an insight there where you do not just have to network with writers. You should also network with other creators like designers or user experience people or researchers, because they're the ones that can give you opportunities as well, just like you. So that's a really nice story. Thank you for sharing that. So what would be your what would be your kind of typical timetable for the week? Because I get this question a lot. What is it really like to be a writer? So do you work remotely as a copywriter, and then do you go into clinics as a physio? What's your kind of typical week? Do you spend, I don't know, Monday, Tuesday writing, and then Wednesday, Thursday in clinic? What's your kind of timetable or split for the week?
It's broadly speaking, it's fairly structured, but I try to keep an element of flexibility because, well, A, you have to, and B, it's more fun that way. But broadly speaking, I still work as a stroke specialist physiotherapist at the moment in the Nottingham Community Stroke Team. So we work 8:30 till 4:30. We don't work weekends, which is a huge bonus, because that means obviously I'm talking to you today. It's Sunday, and I have got that time. But I still work part-time in the NHS, and then I have a designated day for copywriting, and then the other time spread around that as and when I need it. I'm also negotiating to reduce my NHS hours now to put more time into the writing side of things. So, but yes, I think probably any people that listen to this show at some point will relate to finding any spare minute they can if they have to. Yeah, you can stretch your 24 hours when you need to.
Yeah, that's true. And so what is your kind of ideal lifestyle then? Do you want to do more working from home, and do you find that it's more lucrative to be a writer compared to being in the NHS?
I think that working in the NHS, I've done it for a very long time, and people will have their opinions on the NHS from a political point of view, a financial point of view, a person that receives the service. Everyone has an opinion. But from someone that's worked in the NHS for the best part of 2 decades, its heart is still there. People that work frontline and all of the auxiliary roles around that, patient care is still at the heart of it. And I think at the moment, for me to completely up and leave that sector probably would feel huge, and not something I would really want to do. I get weekly reminders of what it's like to make a difference in people's lives, and I think I would want to keep an element of that in my working week, but I would like to shift the balance and take more of a role from the writing point of view. From a selfish point of view, it's nice for me because I would be able to, as a physiotherapist, I can help one person at a time, and it really does make a difference. And from a writing point of view, you can help many people at once if you're really resonating and you're providing valuable content. If you're helping a small business owner that is really providing a fantastic service actually reach their customers, that's amazing. And if you're connecting the customers to the services that will help them, then you're helping the customers too. So I think that, there's just value on both sides. And I think that not to get overly philosophical, but one of the reasons I've sought this career change is because, one day you're going to look back at what you've done. And I think that knowing that you've made a difference and offering a life of service in one way or another is a life well lived. So to answer your point about being lucrative, yes, obviously, when done well, copywriting and marketing does come with that side of things. But I think it's about keeping the action alive, having a good adventure, and knowing that you're making a difference.
Yeah, I really like that. I like that it's important for you to have an impact in many different ways. I've definitely experienced that as well, especially through videos, because it's just crazy when you get even 100 views on a video, or 100 people land on your website page and read your blog, your information, because there's no way you could speak to 100 people even in one day and in the same level of detail. So it is about distributing that information and having an impact in a different way. And also, I feel like you saying, you've lived a life of service, and you're kind of, you're not going to be able to be a physiotherapist forever. And unfortunately, our bodies, I know you're physio, so you probably have a one-up on everyone with how to look after your body, but your mobility decreases over time. You need to think about probably collecting different complementary skills like writing, and then also you have the added advantage of all the experience, all of the lived kind of case studies you've had with real people that then translates into your work. So case studies and stories, and people will be able to relate more to what you've written because you've lived that and experienced it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
from a kind of first-hand point of view. So what's next on the horizon for you? You said you wanted to reduce your hours and kind of reduce your hours with the NHS, but build your business more. What are you looking forward to doing in the next even the next couple of years? I won't say the next 5-10 years, because I think that's too far to think.
Let's just say the next 6 months. Yeah. That's absolutely it. At the moment, I'm waiting for confirmation that my NHS hours will be reduced, and in response to that, I'm already sort of increasing my efforts to take on new clients. I've got 2 potential clients lined up in the next week or two, and another few blog writing jobs that are hopefully going to come through as well. So if all goes to plan, I'm going to be busy. So careful what I wish for, I know, but that's what I want. That's what I want. So, and again, in terms of the clients that I'm taking, it's broadly within the health and wellness space. Obviously, my expertise is in physiotherapy and physical health, but I do really enjoy talking about mental health, philosophy, and I'm quite an avid reader and studier of sort of spirituality and spiritual health as well. So I've found that quite a few of my writing jobs, not through me specifically seeking or actively seeking, have come more into that sort of holistic wellness space, which has been quite an adventure to write about, doing all the research, and and you just meet some very, very lovely people in that space as well. So that's been very rewarding too.
Amazing. So has it been mostly through kind of word of mouth, or do you spend a lot of time on LinkedIn? What's your kind of strategy when it comes to finding clients now compared to when you started?
Mixed bag. Yes, LinkedIn has been my sort of main approach over the last few months. I've seen how when it's done very well, people are, it's a fantastic networking tool for them, and I can see the value in it. It's taken me a while to adjust my approach to it. I would say I don't think I'm probably by personality type the natural sort of LinkedIn person per se, but I think, like anything, it's a case of finding your tribe, isn't it? And I think the more I persevere and keep showing up on LinkedIn, I am finding the people that I really do resonate with. And I think that's something that's going to be very, very beneficial as time passes by. So yeah, I also have an Instagram page, which is actually it's quite enjoyable getting behind the camera and putting together some stories and reels and carousels, and it's all fun. Yeah.
Interesting. So it's interesting that you have an Instagram as well. So it's nice to know that you are kind of actively marketing what you do and then also networking with people. And I think it all compounds over time, so that, having a presence online means that people can find you, they know you're active and you exist. And then it also makes you a little bit more approachable, because I think people need to read enough about you to feel like they already know you a little bit before they actually reach out and want to work with you. Because I think it's very telling if somebody says something online, but then when you meet them, they're completely different. Which is, I think it's one of the warning signs of if you use a lot of, for example, AI or ghost writers to write for you, then it's not really you. So it's kind of like, you're setting yourself up for a fail if you're not being authentic online.
100%.
And so so it's great, and it's really great also that you're moving into the video scene, with reels and things, because that's really interactive, and I think people are looking for more ways to see who you are rather than just reading what you write. So well done for that. So any final thoughts about your experience?
Final thoughts. Well, as long as for as long as it's been going on, which actually feels like quite a long time in my mind already, hence the whole lots of studying and building, I feel like I'm just getting started. So I think it's just a lot of keeping showing up. I know that's been something that a lot of people say, and I think that's absolutely true. There are some days when you feel like you are putting a lot of time and effort into something and not really yielding any return on it. And I think it's just a case of remembering that if you actually really want something, then you keep showing up and you keep doing it. And I think that maybe where my background previously, I studied martial arts for quite a long time. And I think, I think just showing up and doing something that's hard and just keeping doing it does pay dividends. You do get better and you do get results. And also a phrase that I've been reminding myself quite a lot of the last few months is just to remember the fun in it. Is just keep enjoying meeting people, keep enjoying learning and sharpening your skills, and then let the results take care of themselves.
Yeah, that's a really great motivational quote, because I think you can get really stuck if you feel like you're having to do everything on your own, and it's really important to connect with people. And I hope that if you've been listening or watching this podcast, that you've been able to connect with us and our stories as well. So, that's one way of connecting. If you don't want to have a direct conversation, just kind of listen to what people are saying and learn from people that way. So thank you so much, Gavin.
Thank you, Virginia. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Well, thank you for watching or listening, and we'll see you at the next episode. Bye.
Well, I think when you start working in the NHS, you've got a very linear idea of a career structure. From a physiotherapy point of view, you go to university and you get your band 5, then your band 6, and then your band 7, and so on and so forth. And then I think I realized, having discovered a bit more of an entrepreneurial mindset, that the world is wide open for you, and you can talk to anyone and do anything if that's where you choose to invest your time and energy.
Amazing. I totally agree. I think your world opening up is so fantastic, to such a great way to think about entrepreneurship, because I think earlier we were having a conversation and I said how in the NHS you've got your colleagues and your patients, and it feels like that's kind of it. But then once you kind of disturb that, kind of linear thinking, then you realize there's so much out there. And as you said, you can do anything and talk to anyone and see what happens, which makes it very exciting. So you said you had a very exciting past few years of kind of discovering things and being more curious.
Absolutely, yes. I think it's just it's almost like a breadcrumb trail. One thing leads to another, and then if you keep following the trail, you start to realize, as we've said, the world is wide open to you, and it's a fun adventure.
Yeah, and I think a lot of kind of you can be in control of your own adventure if you just reach out and start talking to different people. And like you said, it's a breadcrumb trail. You don't know where one thing will lead to another and where you'll end up. And it's kind of like following and creating your own story as you go along, but it's real life, which makes it more exciting. And
Yes.
I think a lot of people have a fear of going into the unknown, and also a big fear of rejection as well. And I think if you are so afraid of rejection that it stops you from making progress, you need to just ignore that fear and just go for it and just accept that rejection happens. And when you have that small piece of success, hopefully more success in future, then it can lead to more success. So I think people almost stop themselves from being brave enough to make that progress. And thank you for the reminder that there's a whole adventure out there and a whole world out there.
Absolutely, yeah. Just a final thought I would probably say is just to trust the process. It's something that I learned a long time ago, and when things can seem, in the freelancing, marketplace world, so to speak, things can seem quite nebulous. They can, is anything attached, or there's this, but it's not necessarily connected to that, and how do I join the dots from A to B? And I think when I started my podcast, which I don't do at the moment, but I started it a while ago, I did it just because I felt that I should do it, and I had no intention that I will do it because it will give A or B. But then it actually turned out a few years later that in doing my podcast, I'd accidentally learned script writing, marketing, and copywriting skills. I didn't know I was doing that at the time, but it just felt right. So I would definitely say to anyone listening, if it's what they need to hear, trust the process and just keep going.
Yeah, an experiment, and you don't know what you'll learn along the way by accident. So amazing story. Thank you so much, Gavin.